Hello and welcome back to another episode of Fully Booked, the Hidden Gems author podcast, in which Craig Touch and myself, Roland Hume, chat some of the interesting figures and leading lights of this crazy industry of writing and self-publishing. And today I am delighted to introduce Breakfield and Burkey, a co-writing team. And I just love saying that because it makes it sound like you guys are like a cop show, a detective show or something, and you're mismatched partners who solve crime. But Breakfield and Burkey, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining. How are you doing today?
We're doing good, Roland. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak with you, you and Craig. You guys you have a nice, polished, professional look, and you don't start with the expletives right up front. So it means that we'll probably have an excellent show.
Actually, I will save the expletives until later.
Okay.
And of course, we wouldn't be here without the man himself, Craig Touch, the owner and founder of Hidden Gems and an author himself. How are you doing today, Craig?
Doing great. Thanks, Roland. And thanks for joining us, both of you. I know, one of what we want to talk about today, it has to do with reviews, which is something that we're really familiar with here at Hidden Gems. We have our art program, of course, that authors use to try to get reviews. So, this is something reviews have been something we've been sort of in the realm of for the last decade, but it's always really great to have other people on who know something about them, so to get other perspectives and to find out what else other people are doing with the reviews, other than just simply getting them as a tool for giving your book more authority, more allowing it to stand out from other books of the same sort of type. But before we get into all that, let's talk a little bit about the two of you, how you got together and where you came from, and what's gone into your careers that have led you to this point and talking about reviews here.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Craig. So we actually met a long time ago in Dallas when I was working for an organization that was a technology company, and I ended up helping hire Charles to be my boss. And so we had an opening, and I was one of the authorities that was doing the interviewing and all of that. So I contributed to him getting a job. So that kind of kicked off the, how you meet one another. And we worked in technology, and anyone who's familiar with technology know that a lot of that is job hopping, right? You want to go from here to there, and as technology escalating, it was very easy for us to move from one organization to another. So we did that, but we did workshops, and we also wrote technology manuals for the companies we worked for, because we worked for manufacturers. We found we did that really well together.
Yeah. So the problem with tech manuals is that they're extremely dry. They're out of date as soon as they're finished, and the publisher is like, we need this refreshed, and can you do volume 2, 3, or 4, or whatever it was? Pretty exhausting and very unsatisfying. So I picked up my marbles, stomped off one day, and said, I ain't doing this no more. And Roxanne being the consummate bully that she is, came round a couple months later and said, new deal. Take a look at this. It's fiction, but we have technical stuff baked into the story to make it credible, real. So it's these are real fiction. It's the people are fiction, more for the most part, and then we get into the technology, and we have the fun to go along with it.
And what sold him on writing fiction is I told him we could kill people and not go to jail.
Oh, how wonderful.
That's great. I agree. I used to do a lot of sort of tech writing back when I was a product manager, putting together, different design manuals. It is dry. It is sort of mind numbing. And listen, some people that's kind of what they want to do. They just want to do something that's very routine, and that. But for some people that are more creative and don't really want to do the same thing all the time, that kind of thing is very hard. to do for a long period of time, especially when you have ADD like me, and it's like, I cannot do this. But so I think it's great that you guys branched out. So you were able to find an angle for fiction that you both sort of jived with, and then decided to co-write these novels.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the technical threats that we like to study up on and bring into the stories, there's like a conveyor belt coming from the dark net all the time, saying, okay, we've got ransomware, we've got cryptocurrency, we've got lunatics that want to live forever, we've got doing their genetic engineering, we got all kinds of problems coming at us, and the good guys, as you all would probably already suspect, are always behind the curve, because the bad guys got nothing else to do except figure out ways to be able to hack into your system and make your life miserable. Having been there, done that, got the T-shirt for it. We try to incorporate real life technical threats into these technical thriller stories, which has made some very good stories.
I mean, I think that's such a fascinating technology these days is so crazy, right down to the idea of, you could be somebody having a conversation with somebody for an extended period that doesn't exist because they're a large language model or something. I mean, isn't it bonkers, the science fiction universe that we have arrived in?
And we believe it's real. You know? The one thing about fiction is it has to feel real, right?
Yeah, well, and a famous author once, that I like to quote, once said, the difference between nonfiction and fiction is that fiction has to make sense. So we spend a lot of time doing that.
I think that's
a great point, because often you'll see something in real life that when you think about it and say, if I wrote that into a fiction novel, people would think it was ridiculous. They would never believe it, but yet it happened, right? But the people would just be like, nah, that would never happen. So I totally agree with that. So how did the review angle get in? Obviously, I can see from the perspective of authors, you have an interest in getting reviews, right? Reviews help sell books. But what has sort of got you to the point where you want to talk about it, where you have some different ideas about reviews that you want to pass along to other authors?
And thank you for that, Craig, because we also do workshops for authors to help authors. And so one of the things that struck us a long time ago is authors capitalizing on the reviews that they get. So when you get a review, sometimes people forget their manners. You get a review, it's posted on Amazon. Do you say thank you? Do you say you liked it? Did you say you appreciate it? One of the things that we did early on is we started grabbing a sentence out of a review that really resonated, seemed positive, and then used it in social media to help highlight not only that we got a review, but we appreciated the person who gave it, and used it for social media. It's the cut and paste and share it. And so that's part of how we got down that path of what do you do for reviews. So we tend to co-reviews and review what reviews we get on a pretty routine basis and start leveraging them for just that purpose. So if you have a really good one-liner that says, oh my gosh, this is the greatest book since sliced bread, well, you want to share that because that's a good positive thing to do. But you also want to make sure that you thank whoever the actual writer was. And if it's somebody that has social media following, why? They feel really good. It's hard to do reviews. For some reason, people don't like to do reviews. Or they like to do really bad reviews and just be, because I'm anonymous, I don't have to do a good review. So I think accentuating the positive is a win-win.
We've actually taken a step farther, gentlemen. We've taken those gem quotes from a review and then built a 30-second to 60-second video snapped together with a couple of nice digital snippets to be able to help incorporate some visuals along with the quote from the person, and give them actual FaceTime on the video, and put it into our YouTube channel to be able to get that information out there and give them a nice pat on the head.
Oh, I think that's wonderful, because reviews, like, what is the average percentage? One reader in 100 organically will leave a review, and it's because part of it's almost, as an author, you sell your book twice. You sell it that somebody actually pays money for it, but more importantly than that, and it's a completely different transaction, you've got to sell it so they pick it up and actually read it. Because as Dorothy Parker said, buying books and reading books are two entirely separate hobbies. And it's to get a review, it's somebody bought what you were selling twice, and actually bought it and read it, and that's an amazing commitment.
Oh, so it's a great point that you make, and we want to keep people reading, right? Any author, you want to keep them reading.
I'm wondering too about how you. I love this idea that of using the reviews not just to promote your book, which is what normally authors would think of when they say, okay, well, I'm going to pull a really choice line from a review and use that as in my in my social media or in any kind of marketing. But I like the idea that you're using it as a thank you to the reviewer themselves that wrote it. But given that a lot of reviews are anonymous, how is it that you are able to get in contact with that reviewer? Or are you just sort of hoping that they'll see it somehow? Or are you talking about maybe reviews from your own ARC team, so you know who it is who's leaving it? Like, how do you make that connection?
And that's a great point, Craig. So on some things like Goodreads, you can actually do a reply to the reviewer, and you can actually ask them for additional information because you'd like to use a quote. And I've been successful. It's the nothing ventured, nothing gained. You ask for something, you do it nicely, and you're not trying to be rude about it. People are actually pretty helpful if you ask nicely. If you're rude, then they tend to give you rude back. But I've gotten some success doing that. And you're right, some of them are anonymous. Some of them won't say anything, but then some of them, it's pretty easy to find their presence. And we are technologists, so we have ways of hunting. You don't give up easy.
Well, I'm thinking more of the Amazon reviews, where it's harder to connect with those reviewers, right? Because you can't. That's where most authors want the majority of the reviews, because that's where most of the buyers are. But then Amazon doesn't make it easy to figure out who left your review. You can see something of those people, and then maybe you can, depending on what sort of information they have in their profile, you might be able to connect it back to a real person. But I think the majority of those would be pretty hard to track down.
No, I agree with you. And a lot of them, do post on more than one platform. So for example, I read a boatload of books, and I write reviews for people all the time because I have a separate blog. And I'll post reviews on Goodreads, BookBub, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. And so it's not hard to find people who do more than one platform.
Yeah, I guess a lot of them, I guess BookBub probably allows you to do that too, right? To connect with the reviewers. Yeah.
Yep.
And so I guess even if you don't find them, though, I mean, reviews in general are fairly, like, especially if you're taking one line, and you can always sort of argue the fair use. You don't necessarily need the permission of the reviewer to use a quote from the review. And you don't even really need Amazon's permission, right? Like, if you're just taking a line out of the review, no one's gonna try to come after you for that. So, I mean, I guess the idea is, like, you want to contact the reviewer to sort of let them know if you can, because that goes to the other factor of sort of thanking them. But if you can't and you still want to use that line, do you still go ahead and use it, or do you only do it in cases where you know who you're?
We use it as long as we use their name. This was said by so-and-so.
Okay.
Don't manipulate the line.
Right.
If it's not something I want to use, I won't use it. But I don't change it or manipulate it. So I'm copying exactly what they said.
Right. No, I don't mean that. I just mean if you can't identify who the reviewer is, you'll still use it, though, if you want to use it. Yeah.
Said by Susie, whatever. Yeah, Susie 123. And I really don't know who that is, but at least if they looked at the review and saw it on Amazon, they would know I was quoting a person.
Right.
Or an
I think that
individual.
sounds very ethical.
Try to be ethical. Try.
Yeah.
So try.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes they don't even have that information. Sometimes they'll have the very generic Amazon reviewer. You know, some people don't even want to put their name, or they'll have some kind of a, you know, pseudonym that is not very specific. But yeah, as long as you're quoting where you got it from.
Yeah.
So when you post these videos and that you were talking about, when you make videos out of these lines, are you posting them to TikTok or Instagram? Like, where are you putting those?
They can go into multiple places, but usually it's YouTube. So we've tried to put all of our video content out there. And it's sort of a fun exercise to be able to quote people and build graphics around the thing. And if they've got a company that they're associated with, we give them a little bit of lip service as well. So it gets it does generate some buzz, and people will start to say, "Hey, I saw this. What would it take for you to be able to do one for me?" And so it turns into a little bit of a side hustle. And it's like, okay, we'd appreciate you. We have a new book coming out, and May 1st, and we'd love to be able to see some reviews from your group or for you personally. What do you think? And so, it's a conversation. It's the ability to be able to trade back and forth with people saying, I'd like to see you read your next book. I got one sitting in our author's email right now. It says, let me send you my full book, my manuscript. I'd like your thoughts on it. So that's what happens. You start getting these people saying, will you do this? And it's very, very interesting, the kind of activity that gets generated.
I mean, that sounds great, because you're giving people something and you're getting things in return. It's not transactional. It's just, the more you give, the more you get, really.
Well, and it's not, authors are not competing against other authors. They're really not. They're competing against other books to get readers' attention. But the biggest readers on the planet are authors, I have found. Authors and teachers are possibly the majority of readers. Now, if you're a professional, audiobooks kind of hits the first line there. But from a reading perspective, other authors love to read. They like to get ideas. It's just how they're born. So you have to support the overall author community.
Mm.
So that's one way I kind of look at it too.
Well, the other thing too, again, you bring up a good point. We do audiobooks on all of our big novels, and so you need reviews on those as well. And that's actually a little easier to get. People say, I don't have time to read. You're going to ask me to write something. Hey, all you have to do, can you listen? Can you hear? Okay, all right. We'll get you a reviewer code, and all you have to do is just tell me what you thought. And then like, well, gee, I kind of like that. That's cool. I can, and so you can solicit that up front as a bargaining chip. If I can get you the audio book, just tell me what you say. Give me a fair review. That's fine.
Oh, you're on mute there, Roland.
I was going to say, one of the things I think that's a roadblock, people would love to leave reviews, but there are obstacles in the way. So if you take away those obstacles, it just helps people leave reviews so much more easily. I think that, the flesh is willing. No, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Sometimes you get these little roadblocks that come in front of you. Like, you can't leave a review on Amazon unless you've spent $50 in the last year or something like that. But to be able to facilitate giving people an opportunity to give their opinion about your book, is great, because then they will.
And I think that we, in general, have to encourage people. I agree. Amazon is the biggest marketplace. It's where we want to see the most reviews. Anybody that has 50,000 reviews clearly has a following that I'm envious of. But encouraging people to also review in other platforms. People do go to BookBub or Goodreads or Barnes and Noble and get some of their feedback from there. And it's just encouraging people, and thanking them, I think, helps encourage them.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of things that Amazon does that, and for their own reasons, and some are more valid than others, but that sort of block legit readers from being able to review regularly on their platform. So allowing and encouraging readers to leave reviews on other platforms is helpful to them as well, right? It's allowing them to still be able to express their opinions on the book, and it doesn't have to be in a place where they can't necessarily even do so, right? So, yeah.
Exactly. Bless you.
I had myself on mute because I was going to sneeze, and then it's like,
when you create all this media for, are you doing it like multiple videos, multiple social things for each book, or like how much are you doing per book to promote it in terms of what you're getting from the reviews and the videos you're creating from them, and the different platforms that you're putting it on?
Well, I mean, it's variety is some of the things that we strive for. There are several platforms that we extract. Well, just for the audibles, for instance, we get the MP3 and then turn it into an MP4, a snippet of a real choice, a fun piece of the audio book, and put an ending page on it that says, "Hey, if you like this, you can go to Spotify and get the book." So it's there's that. There's the the video snippets that were stitched together to be able to help do book compares for somebody that we admire. They have a good property, and so they get free advertising. And we get to do co-telling on their product, and say, okay, you like this one, you probably like this book, and so we spend a lot of time building a video that would do those kind of compares, with the action item at the end saying, hey, this is a good place to go to get your favorite book.
And to your point, Craig, we have our own YouTube channel, Enigma Series, so we post them there. And then, they can be pulled off and shared on social media. But we don't sit there and do like 35 reviews, shorts. We do it by book. So we have different book lists. So people who are interested in one of our books because of whatever is going on, they can kind of get a flavor for the book and who likes it. But, we try to rotate throughout them. We don't have as many reviews as we like, and yet we still have a good number that we can select from.
And then when you're looking at what to select, right? So I think for somebody who's just doing this for the first time, they're going to look for things. I think that the common thing they're going to most likely look for is like, oh, I love this book, right? So that's obviously one thing you're going to want to focus on, but there's other things too. And I'm sure you can give us some good examples, but in my mind, you kind of want to, something you said just now sort of sparked to my mind, like you want a review that talks a little bit about the kind of books that the person likes, so that gives other readers the idea of like, oh, okay, yeah, he likes the kind of same books as me. When somebody just says, I love this book, that doesn't really tell you anything. But you want to say, oh, this book reminded me of this, and I really like that, and or I love, thrillers that are very technological, and that's why these books really resonate with me. That's the kind of thing I think I would want to focus on more than just I love this book.
No, exactly. And I mean, there's one where they, and I can't quote it exactly, I should know it by heart, but I don't. But it was like, I didn't think I would like this character, but I ended up really liking them. And it was like, okay, that was a very unique thing to pull out. And I thought, well, that makes it very interesting, because now we have a point of view that someone really related to it.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Craig. That's more of a point to say, this is a relatable quote rather than I love the book, because you're right. That's too easy. And it seems like it's cookie cutter.
the way the quote it stuck in my mind because
You memorized it.
yeah,
I
it's
got
like,
it.
oh, I gotta, like, I was stunned. He said, I didn't want to like the character, but I couldn't help myself. I didn't want to like him, but I felt sorry for him. I'm like, that tells me volumes. You read the book, you digested the character, and then when we flipped the bits on that particular personality, it resonated with that reviewer. It was stunning because it captured everything that we were hoping for in somebody's review.
And I have to admit, if I read a review that said that, it would definitely pique my interest because, you know, we love those characters. We love to hate, except then sympathize with. And that's the sign of a good writer, if you can do that. So if somebody in a review is pointing that out to me, that's a really good indicator that this book is written by people who know what they're doing.
Or at least having fun doing it. I think the other thing that we found is a good reason to look at book reviews and kind of see what people are saying. Sure, you can learn how to do things better, and that's always valuable, because if it's good constructive criticism, great, we need to take advantage of that. But we actually had a review done by somebody, and we knew within the first paragraph, and it was one of these really lengthy reviews that somebody was just going to go on and on about. It wasn't the book. They had pulled information from several of our novels and overviews to create a review using AI, and it was not the book they were reviewing.
Oh, yikes.
So we called phony, and it made them pull it down.
Yeah, that's
It
unfortunate.
was sad to have to sacrifice it, but it's like
It was wrong.
It was wrong. That was it was a nice review for somebody else's book. You know,
Yeah. I
it,
mean, that happens even from legit readers that are reading a lot of books. Sometimes they'll post a review on the wrong book, and all you can really do is I'll get an email from an author saying, somebody reviewed the wrong book. And you send them an email. Usually, legit reviewers are usually very good about things. Like sometimes they'll put in an accident, and I really do think it is accidental. Sometimes they'll put in an accidental spoiler for a mystery or a thriller. And it's not even like they're trying to spoil it. They're just like, oh, I couldn't believe that it was Bob in the end. Like they're just excited, and then the author will be like, oh my God, and you just contact them. You say, hey, that's kind of a spoiler, and then usually they're like, oh my God, I'm sorry, and they'll change it.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah.
It's like Mayday, we're going down.
Yeah. Do you ever? I'm thinking about a case that Roland has brought up in the past where he had a negative review that was one of his favorites, his favorite all-time reviews, even though it was negative. Do you ever get reviews that people think are maybe they wrote it as negative, but you kind of actually see it as a positive and end up using that, or maybe even lines from it, although I don't know if you might not want to take it completely out of context, because that would be a little disingenuous, but sometimes what one person thinks is a negative to the book to them is actually a positive to a lot of other people.
Yeah, we've done that. Probably the best one I've ever seen was this barbecue place in Springfield, Missouri, and they actually had T-shirts printed up for this 1-star review from somebody who says, this is not a vegan restaurant. I thought I was going to die.
Vegan barbecue.
I have to admit, in my favorite review, I write romance novels, very steamy romance novels under a female pen name. And my best review, my favorite review ever, is a 1-star review that said, this book is pure pornography. And somebody underneath wrote, thank you, I wasn't going to buy it until I read this review. And I've had more positive impact on my sales from that 1-star review than any other.
That's a review where you want to get on Amazon, take a screenshot of both of those and just share it out, because
absolutely.
Yeah, there's a whole science to using negative reviews, saying, hey, if you don't want to be entertained, if you don't have this, don't buy my book. And there's actually some.
We've worked on some of those, and like, scared. If you don't want to worry about if you're terrified of cyber threats, don't read our books.
Yes, that's. I mean, that's yeah. Oh no, go on, Craig.
That's what I'm talking about. Is you sometimes you are looking for those things that people didn't necessarily get what you were trying to do with your book, and their complaint is actually helps reinforce what you're trying to do with your book. And so by calling attention to it, it's that you turn a negative into a positive.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've just started looking at that this year, Craig, to your point. It's something we hadn't done with the negative stuff, and we started looking at that because someone else had mentioned something similar. And you're right. If you take it and carefully massage it, it's like, oh, this is pretty good. I like this.
And it does the one thing that I like, which is delivers some humor to the with a different spin. So they go, huh, tell me more. And that's what we strive for.
Humor is so powerful. I think the only thing that's stronger than being able to make somebody laugh is being able to make somebody cry.
True that.
Yeah.
So when you are promoting a new book, do you do any advertising? And if so, do you ever pull some of those review quotes into your ad copy?
So we do like AMS ads some, but we also do social media. And so if we have a review on a book that's going to be released, we will use it. We do have a release that's coming up in May 1st that we've done very little to actually advertise on because, well, we've been busy. But yes, it's a good thing. But we didn't get any pre-reviews on this one. And so, hopefully in the last, couple of days, we'll do something. But normally we're better at a new release, trying to get additional traction. And we've done some social media on it, but we have no quotes on this particular book. So
a lot of what we keep running into is the what I would call the old school of book releases that were built in the 90s, where they said the publishing house said, okay, we need a 6-month runway before we actually release it, so that the reviewers have time to be able to digest it, put it in their hopper, read it, review it, and then slam it out there. And we're like, excuse me, we're a small press. We don't have that luxury of holding on to a property for 6 months while somebody will be able to write a review, and hopefully it'll be good enough to be able to be used. So it's like, no, our position is we're trying to get entertainment into the channel. We're trying to get our property out. Yes, I'd like to have the reviews in advance. If you don't have time for it, I get it. It's going to have to wait. We'll have to accumulate it after it releases. But we juice the system by taking those published books, because now they're available for going into book competitions that also get read, that also get reviewed, that also get the buzz that I'm missing from the people who are still playing on the 1990s playing field of how to be able to get a book reviewed.
Yeah, that's a really astute thing to say. And we had a guest on a podcast recently talking about competitions and the value that you get from entering your book into competitions. And like that's what you just did there, I think, is combine two magic ingredients. And you're right. Yeah, you have. When I first came to America years and years ago, one of my first jobs was actually writing book reviews, and I worked with all sorts of other people who wrote book reviews. This is when we used to do it on Blogger and stuff, and they were the most ghastly people, because they were always so like, oh, I'm a very influential blogger, I'm very busy, I've got so many books, I'm just gonna have to wait. And they seemed to have such an inflated sense of self-importance. And so yeah, you think with book reviews how important it is what you write to the authors you're doing. So it's nice to bring some humility into that.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And I
think
love
a lot of.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say that I think a lot of readers these days, at least the ones that go through the art program of ours, they're reading books pretty fast. I think these days, a week or two is all it takes most people to get through a book. So unless they're getting really backlogged, there's no real reason to have to delay it. And sometimes people do come and they think that they need a 6-month lead time, and you know, they're surprised when they hear, no, you don't really need that. You just send it to us a week or two ahead of time, and that is good enough generally, right? I mean, Amazon doesn't let you even put reviews on book that's on pre-order anyways, so it's not like you can get reviews ahead of time unless you're publishing the paperback version sooner so that people can review on that, and then you launch the ebook. I mean, there's different ways around it, but or you know, you put it on Goodreads or one of the other ones, but in general, yeah, there's no reason anymore for that lead time. It's part of that whole traditional publishing model that is really, we're all seeing those cracks turning into chasms, you know, of that industry that's sort of falling apart and dying at this point.
Yeah,
Exactly. And you know, as small press, you know, we have to try and recoup an ROI on the cost for publishing. I mean, there is a cost associated with it. And we want our fans to get to books. You know, it's just like they want to know where the next book is. Where's the next book?
yeah, that's sort of the irony of our world, is that we're supposed to be doing some marketing as soon as we have a book ready to go. Except that and the question, and it's a retail question: what's new? What's coming next? And they want to know, okay, here's somebody who's dedicated to their craft. Here's somebody who's coming out with additional stories. And that's just as important as the statement of here's all the places we're advertising. We're also building the next great novel for your entertainment.
Yeah, and you know what? That is sort of also a product of our new reality of, you know, the what do they call it? The, you know, the attention span that people have these days, the MTV generation, whatever it is they refer it to. But, you know, and the traditional publishing model was, if I wanted, and it still is, if you're waiting for a traditionally published author to write the next book in their series, you're waiting at least a year in between each book, right? Whereas self-publishers are usually publishing quicker. Sometimes they'll do it once a month, every 3 months, every 6 months, but it's usually not as long, and people come to expect that. And then it becomes, like you said, it's more of like, what have you done for me lately? You know, where's the next one?
Yeah,
no, I mean, they always say the best advertisement for your next book, for your current book is your next book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, we had one reader complain about one of the characters we had. See, if this woman is detestable, I can't believe you let her get away in that last book. I said, well, read the next book, and the next book. Yeah. And by the book number 6 or 7, we had this notepad from her. I can't believe she was redeemable. I didn't see that coming. That was great. Thank you for giving her the chance to be able to prove to me, the reader, that this was a valued character.
I love that.
How often are you both publishing books? Is it?
It's about every 6 months.
Yeah.
So we have the release coming out in May, and then our next target is in August.
And how do you share the load? Are you, because we've had different writing teams on the podcast over the years, and you know, different people do it differently. You know, you might want, I write one chapter and then they write the next one, or I write. You know, how do you do that sort of?
Well, we use our patent pending technique called literary ping pong, and what we do is we each take a chapter and then wordsmith it, character smith it, and bat it over to the other one, and we basically take a chapter and polish it to the degree that we want. Or we might, you know, do that, and then another chapter will be inspired to be able to put something together for the other person. And so it's a give and take. We've done it for so many years. It's funny. I can't think of another way to be able to write. It just I count on her to be able to say, okay, no, Charles, don't. Really, no female on the planet would say that way.
Yeah.
And we keep track of things on spreadsheets, and you know, we share it back and forth because, well, you know, internet's our friend from that perspective. And but we tend to plot out at a high level 10 to 15 chapters at a time, and then we kind of just pick which one we want. Oh, I really want to do this one. And so they may not be written necessarily in perfect order, but then going back and forth with the ping pong attribute, it gets smoothed. And it does sound like a single voice. And actually, when the editor over here, when his wife, the editor, comes to him and goes, okay, who wrote this chapter? And she can't tell who wrote it.
I can't think of a better stamp of approval than that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I guess when you're writing as a duo, I imagine you almost have to be plotters, right? It would be pretty hard to be both of you be pantsers and sort of just making things up as you go along, because things would go, I think, a little bit crazy.
Sometimes it goes crazy when he gets up and writes a chapter because he had a dream, and then it has to get pushed down. Good chapter, really good chapter, but not yet.
Yeah, I like the virtual pat on the head. Okay, we'll get to it. Just hang in there. I mean, there's some patronizing that I have to endure from time to time.
We'll save that for the epilogue, right?
Exactly.
Does one of you take the role of looking at the reviews and working with those more than the other, or is that something you also just share back and forth equally?
Charles tends to look at those more and helps build the videos. He's gotten a passion for building videos and using some of the AI capabilities for doing videos right now and having fun with it. So he tends to do that. I tend to be more of the let's smooth it and make sure that everything is sounding like a single voice.
I find that so. I mean, we're approaching the top of the hour now, so we'll have to sort of wrap things up. But I kind of want, Craig, I don't know about you, but I'd like to invite you guys back at some point to talk about how you write together, because it's such an interesting dynamic. It's like the symbiosis of it. We've had a couple of guests who talk about that, but it's like it's an incredible thing to be able to do that.
We would love to come back anytime. You guys are terrific.
Yeah.
Everybody does it differently too. I don't know that I could ever write with a partner. I mean, maybe, but I think that, the more writing teams that we talk about, the more processes we hear about, right? It's almost like everyone does it completely different. You have to find what works for you. And I imagine that takes time. And clearly you guys have both been doing it for enough time now that you've found your groove and your ping pong technique. So if it works for you, right? I mean, it doesn't matter how other people do it. I think a lot of times the benefit of hearing about all these other approaches isn't so much to say, oh, that's the one I want to do. It's more to hear that there are lots of ways that work. So you can figure out your own, and that might work for you.
Find your own way. And sure, we're happy to come back and talk about it.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
Well, as we wrap things up, I want a very, very important thing. I think you probably wet the whistle of any person listening right now. Where can they go to find out more about your books? Find out more about you say you teach other writers and things like that. Where are you based on the internet? And we'd love to hear about your YouTube channel as well, because I think that's another avenue that I think a lot of writers would be interested in exploring.
Well, thank you for that. So enigmaseries.com. ENIGMA series.com is where people can find all of our books, samples of our books, links to my blog where I do book reviews, links to little samples that we have, ways to sign up to follow us on YouTube, which is also at Enigma Series. So it's pretty easy to find. We would love some followers and, subscribers. We love subscribers. And we like input, everything. Comments are always nice as long as they're constructive. So that's the best way to find us. We have an email that you can certainly send information to, authors@enigmaseries.com. And we will reply. That's usually going to be from Charles. So
I do that housekeeping on that side. So yeah. No problem.
Well, that is wonderful. We will make sure to pop a link down below in the description so people can go and check you out. So if you are listening to this, if you are watching this and you've enjoyed everything that Breakfield and Burkey, I love that, together have said, then make sure to scroll down there, check out that link. And also you'll see that big comment box. Leave them a comment. Let them know how much you've appreciated everything that they have come and said to us and shared with us today, because I found it very, very valuable. And of course, while you're down there, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and there is a bell icon there, which if you tap that, you'll get notified every time there is a new episode of Fully Booked, which of course there will be next week, a brand new episode of Fully Booked. So we hope you will join us then. Cheerio.